Quantum Bombs. Welcome to Quantum Bombs, a commentary show where we talk about the human condition. Oh yes, what is it like to be human through metaphysics and freedom? And today we are diving deep into the freedom aspect of this. And if I do my job right, I will land us right at metaphysics in the end. It is a whopper of a show because most of you missed this because we just bombed Iran and it got buried. But don't worry, no matter when you listen to this episode, it is relative because it's going to be the thorn in our side for as long as we are going to be around and living. There's no escaping this big topic that we're talking about. And it is just based on one simple tweet that President Trump put out. But it is so much bigger than that. It entails so much. Juicy gossip and beef, how we live our lives. I'm going to give us a 500-foot view of it, and the stakes couldn't be any higher, guys. It is about mass surveillance, AI safety in a time where AI is now operating our weapons of war. Who's in the cool man's club? Who's getting these $200 million contracts for the AI companies? And I think just to start, I'm going to go over like 3 quick things about what we could be thinking on through the episode, okay? So play along with me. You know when you've heard the expression, you can't see the forest for the trees. You're too deep in it. You can't see out of it. You've got the love goggles on, guys. Have you ever dated anybody where all your friends and family kind of can see the obvious, but you can't? And then looking back 10 years later, you're not together and you're like, yeah. Maybe that's what I'm trying to figure out is part of the problem of what we're going to discuss today. The other thing we're going to discuss is so easily passed over. I'm guilty of it too, because my privacy, my data, my autonomy, my get off the F off of my property is so, I never really think about it too often because I'm not a crazy person. I don't have too much to hide. So we often just glaze over what it means to have your own privacy, to have the government out of your business. But yet, I know as a Texan, a libertarian, thankfully I'm kind of rather old, I don't know. You could say I'm midlife. I'm midlifing it. But the younger folks don't know this. Across the world in all these other countries, especially, they don't know this. We just give up our autonomy. We just do all these dumb sheeple things. We don't even use cash anymore. We're completely walking and marching ourselves into this, this idea of when someone needs something from you, the fact that it just goes right over our heads. No one really thinks twice about, well, why do you need that? Is it even right that you're asking me that? Or those types of thoughts. In regards to our mass surveillance, we have our Fourth Amendment. I know that Americans, we don't really know past the first and the second, but our Fourth Amendment is regarding searches and seizures. No one has the right to just look through your data, your phone, your house, etc. The Third Amendment, which also no one knows, I've learned just doing this episode, actually, I can't give myself a gold star. It is pretty much irrelevant to today's times because it's about back when the British soldiers forced themselves to live with Americans during the war. It basically says you don't have to house soldiers. But today, in modern times, what it means, if we had to interpret it in modern times, it's that my property matters and my privacy in my own home matters and my docile matters. And then later through courts, they determined that even if you aren't the owner of the house, but you're renting the house, what's in there, your life, your privacy, you have a right to it. In 1967, going back down to the Fourth Amendment, there was a case, Katz versus the USA, and there wasn't, before this time, the word privacy written into our Fourth Amendment. So, however, the ruling is that, and I want y'all to remember these words because I read them and I thought this is it. The words, Americans have a reasonable expectation of privacy. That is what makes us different from the rest of the world. That is kind of how I grew up. And so I get so annoyed when you see all this invasion of privacy, as the English say it, of privacy, and no one ever questions it. Most people don't know that the line is being crossed. The government has no right to ask me barely anything. You definitely can't drive on my property. Any Texan knows the most powerful person in the law is actually the game warden because they can drive on your property. But the only thing I owe the government is April 15th. I will send you my taxes. And for those of us less organized, less prioritized, October the 15th. But other than that, That's all the government needs to do in our lives. I've got this book here, and it's Atrocities by Matthew White, The 100 Deadliest Episodes in Human History. This book, I will show it to you on a lot of my episodes, okay? Because it reminds me that there is no point in having the government in my life. I guess what people you got to pick up on that book is that the government's usually the ones killing the people. Okay, and the last thing, let's jump into the topic. The third thing we're going to try to just wrap our brain around is what makes this so different. This tweet that I'm fixing to reveal to y'all. We've always had defense contractors, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, all these cool, sexy people that we just print money into existence, and all of our tax dollars goes to funding these forever wars. We've always paid them to design us weapons of mass destruction, weapons that can kill immensely. So how is this any different? This is kind of Donald Trump's point. I am ordering something from you and you must give it to me. What makes this different, I don't know, this is for us to weigh out in this episode, is that the weapons before took a human being to touch the button and make it go pew pew, right? You could argue that we had smart weapons and it was a little bit autonomous. It had its own free will. It calculated some zeros and ones on where to go to, but it still had a human go, boop, hit the little button. Whereas now with AI, it's autonomous, and it is a robot or a program, how you ever want to see it, that is now operating these weapons. Or are they not? That's the whole point of the pushback and the episode today. So in 2025, our Pentagon, the Department of War, contracted 4 different AI companies, each getting a contract for $200 million for their AI. Those companies are Google DeepSeek, ChatGPT's OpenAI, Anthropic's Claude, and xAI by Grok or by X. And each one performs its own different function, but Claude is the one that Palantir has spent the most investment and equity in putting Claude as its main operating system. So how did we even get into this debacle where we've got this tweet happening that we're fixing to get to here? Do you remember when we went down south and we were the American heroes and I cried? I hope y'all cried, or at least your heart was happy. We went down to Venezuela and we nabbed the dictator Maduro. It was quite a feat for military anything. I mean, everybody was impressed, especially if you kept up with the technology they used. Well, that got people thinking like Anthropic, the company that we will be diving into today. And they called up Palantir and they're like, hey, when you captured Maduro, did you use our stuff? And Palantir was like, well, yeah, we did. Why? And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, has birthed the debacle, the why. And how dare you call and ask? Just to kind of make this really clear for the rest of the episode, what the AI companies are offering is the brain. Palantir is this devilish company that we're giving up all of our freedoms to run our mass surveillance systems. It's basically software that our government has contracted, and it will be running a lot of our defense systems and mass surveillance systems. They'll call them data programs. And the brain in that software is from AI companies that we will be talking about today. Okay? So this has been framed in many different ways in the media. The left would say this is about AI safety. And then you have Trump and Elon Musk calling Anthropic left-wing nut jobs. And then you have other people looking at what Anthropic CEO Dario said as maybe he is a patriot. Similar to Edward Snowden, he is saying some really heavy stuff that we should be paying attention to. Or is it just a game of the good old boys club, the billionaires club of those people always win, and that is why they're left-wing nut jobs? We're going to learn today actually what makes somebody, an AI company, a left-wing nut job. Since I've seen so many of us just kind of chiming in on Twitter and not really knowing what this tweet was really about. To paint the picture about safety in AI, I thought nothing better than to show you this cool clip from a short film. It's 8 minutes long, but we're going to watch the 2-minute trailer. It's called Slaughterbots. So for those of you that don't have the imagination of why surveillance and weapons of war go hand in hand. I want this to kind of illustrate it for you. I think it will do you well. It's just a short 2-minute
directed 3,000 precision strikes last year. We're super proud of it. It allows you to separate the bad guys from the good. It's a big deal. But we have something much bigger. Your kids probably have one of these, right? Not quite. Its processor can react 100 times faster than a human. And just like your phones and social media apps, it does facial recognition. Inside here is 3 grams of shaped explosive. They can penetrate buildings, cars, trains, evade people, bullets, pretty much any countermeasure. Just characterize him, release the swarm, and rest easy.
You can see high windows, very small, precisely punctured to gain entry to the building.
A $25 million order now buys this. Enough to kill half a city.
Legislation would be useless against the so-called Slaughterbots.
As to stay away from crowds.
We are thinking big. They cannot be stopped. When you can find your enemy using data, even by a hashtag, you can target an evil ideology right where it starts.
Wow. Well, if you want to watch the full 8-minute thing, it's much better. That is the example of no human in the loop. They're going to let go a swarm of 30,000 of those little tiny bees and let them handle business based on whatever they're programmed to do. Okay, so let's get into the mix of the drama. Let's do Trump's tweet first. Now, I want to frame how this is being seen. I'm just going to read it from somebody random on the internet. Posted, Dario Amodi, CEO of Anthropic, is a far leftist. He supports to the left. Anthropic would push the woke agenda. If a leftist says they want to be political, you shouldn't believe them. I think he miswrote that, or I'm misreading it. Woke is their religion. Trump ending Anthropic from the government is great for America. Well, you know what, guys? We're going to find out what makes Anthropic woke. I'm a little bit biased, I will admit. I pay Claude the most. Claude is their form of ChatGPT and LLM. I pay for Grok, ChatGPT, and Anthropic Claude. Claude is my favorite, and they get most of my money each month. This is a long tweet because, as Trump writes, he's long, but yet there's a lot to unpack here, so I'm going to read the full dang thing to you guys. The United States of America will never allow a radical left woke company to dictate how our great military fights and wins wars. That decision belongs to your commander-in-chief and the tremendous leaders I appoint to run our military. The left-wing nut jobs at Anthropic have made a disastrous mistake trying to strong-arm the Department of War and force them to obey their terms of service instead of our Constitution. Their selfishness is putting American lives at risk, our troops in danger, and our national security in jeopardy. Therefore, I am directing every federal agency in the United States government to immediately cease all use of Anthropic's technology. We don't need it, we don't want it, and will not do business with them again. There will be a 6-month phase-out period for the agencies like the Department of War who are using Anthropic's products at various levels. Anthropic better get their act together and be helpful during the phase-out period, or I will use the full power of the presidency to make them comply with the major civil and criminal consequences to follow. We will decide the fate of our country, not some out-of-control radical left AI company run by people who have no idea what the real world is all about. Thank you for attention to this matter. Make America great again. Wow, that's a lot to unpack. Now, what caused President Trump to push back? I'm going to tell you there's 2 reasons why. Number 1, no mass domestic surveillance of Americans. Anthropic refused to let Claude be used to track, monitor, or surveil U.S. citizens at scale. Number 2, no fully autonomous lethal weapons. Anthropic refused to let Claude be used in weapon systems that can kill without a human in the loop. Okay, and then the government's response, again, you kind of heard Donald Trump making his case. I want everything he says, right? Like, I want to be safe. I want to follow our Constitution. But is it really that, or is it kind of not that? The government's short response, why this is dangerous. The Pentagon's position is simple. The DoD insisted on all lawful purposes standard. Trust us. We'll follow the law. Just get out of our way. A Pentagon person said, Modi is a liar with a God complex who wants nothing more than to personally control the U.S. military and is okay putting our nation's safety at risk. This all sounds like legit, right? Like, I'm totally down, dude. Get this crazy guy out of here. I want to feel safe. But when you look at it, it's kind of like not. Okay, somebody asked the government to further explain themselves, and they gave an analogy, and I want to read it to you. A senior defense official posted a hypothetical to a Modi during a December phone call. What if a nuclear-armed ICBM were hurling toward the U.S. without 90 seconds to spare, and Anthropic AI were the only way to trigger a missile response, but the company's safeguards wouldn't allow it? According to the Pentagon version, Modi's answer was essentially, you could call us and we'd figure it out. That enraged the Pentagon leaders. Anthropic denied that account. They called it patently false and said the company has already agreed to allow Claude for their missile system. So who do we trust? What do we believe? I want to show another book because normally I'm not an expert at nuclear stuff, but I am 60% of the way through this book. If you ever want to know anything about nuclear war, this is it. This is the latest book with all of the players, every single ounce that can be weighed, minute that can be measured, and player in the game is in this book. And I could definitely say, yeah, there's nuclear war is actually a war that is handled in under 3 minutes, period, no matter what country you're dealing with. So yeah, to their point, they have no time to call someone. However, I don't know. This seems a little bit too convenient for the U.S. government to be saying that, and then he's saying that wasn't the case at all. Now, what's also alarming about President Trump's tweet is the speed at how this happened and unfolded. So I think we're going to go first through the speed of it and then the punishment. Let's just back up. All 4 AI companies signed a $200 million contract with the Pentagon last year. But now, post Venezuela questioning on like whose AI are you using and what are you doing with it, it looks like they're making some amendments and further detail into their classified systems. So XAI signed a deal on February 23rd and basically just said, yeah, dude, just follow the law and we're cool with it. On February 24th, this is Tuesday, Pete Hegseth pushed Modi to hurry up and sign. The deadline is Friday. So on Thursday, they came back with their 2 red line items that we just went through. On Friday, the hammer drops. Trump orders all agencies to stop using Anthropic's. Hegseth designates them as supply chain risk. Contract killed. Their $200 million contract. On Saturday, OpenAI announces it has reached a deal with the Pentagon for classified use. Sam Altman admits the negotiations were definitely rushed. So basically, he went in there, dropped Anthropic, called up ChatGPT company OpenAI, and was like, hey, can you do this? Now, what makes Modi not look crazy is that Sam Altman didn't just go into this going, yes, I'll do whatever, like Elon kind of did. He said, I kind of agree with their 2 red lines. I kind of want what they have. What Modi was asking for, like in contracts, was specific language regarding specific things. So you have Elon saying, absolutely, just stay within the reins of the law. You had Anthropic saying, I want specific language. And then you have OpenAI come in, Sam Altman, and is like, well, I ain't going to lie. I kind of agree with that prior company. And they're like, all right. Well, what if we, give you, we're going to stay within the law and we're going to kind of like, let's see, what does it say? OpenAI amends its deal to add stronger language against domestic surveillance after public backlash. So they got the deal that Anthropic couldn't get, but it's not exactly written in the same language. So it's in between what Elon got and what Anthropic was pushing for, which is kind of important. The punishment. So for pushing back, this is the punishment Anthropic got. Trump ordered the federal agencies to immediately cease using Anthropic's technology. Though if we remember back in the tweet, it said, well, we have 6 months to phase it out. Anthropic's Claude was the operating system that he used the very next day, because this is on Friday. Let's see. Yeah. Saturday, we brokered the deal with Sam Altman, all during the chaos of Iran being bombed. Wow, that's a lot happening if you think about it. While we're bombing Iran, we were using Claude in Palantir's software. So Claude was the brain and the genius that helped us create another great military win, something that, again, should bring you and brought myself so much joy, so much astonishment for the wonderful Iranians. Anyways, Hegseth designated Anthropic a supply chain risk, a classification normally reserved for companies connected to foreign adversaries. The Pentagon canceled Anthropic's $200 million contract, as we know. Hegseth announced that no contractor, supplier, or partner doing business with the U.S. military may conduct business with Anthropic. Do you know how messed up that is? That is like so bad. It's just like wrong on every level. Like, we're going to break up with you, but we're also going to make everybody else break up with you. It's childish. Okay. The Pentagon threatened to invoke, this is the worst, the Defense Production Act to force Anthropic to hand over its technology, a Cold War era law that would basically let the government seize their AI. Anthropic said it was deeply saddened, called the designation legally unsound, and vowed to fight it in court. You know, I think it's important. I want to play Sam Altman's from OpenAI, his response to exactly that. He backed up Anthropic. Listen to homeboy.
I don't personally think the Pentagon should be threatening DPA against these companies. For all the differences I have with Anthropic, I mostly trust them as a company, and I think they really do care about safety, and I've been happy that they've been supporting our warfighters. I don't personally.
So that is him right there saying, I agree with Anthropic and definitely don't want the DPA being thrown at any AI company. It's setting such an early precedence. I mean, we're just beginning to use AI from a historical standpoint. And I mean, I have to admit, this is so unlikable of Trump to do. And I think it's because maybe he's so far in this and he doesn't think that the average human being can understand, follow, or listen and see it for what it is. Like, I hate playing bipartisan politics. I'm kind of surprised the left. Here's the problem. The left calls Donald Trump a tyrannical dictator all the time. So when he actually does something that kind of feels dictatorial and tyrannical by punishing a person he hired to perform a product, punishment in this regard, he actually could be assessed that way, but they've cried wolf way too many times. So this is why I don't even think they've said anything. If they did, it doesn't matter because nobody is listening to them. Everybody's been calling him that. So this is the perfect example of crying wolf and no one's paying attention. Hopefully we will hold him accountable and his feet to the fire. We'll step up, especially for our future with Vance and Marco Rubio, whoever may seize the presidency at that time. First off, this person who posted this, I forgot to mention how cheesy he looks. They found like the most cheesiest picture of the CEO, Dario Amodei, they could possibly find. But I just want y'all to hear him in his own words on this one little thing. You could see he cares about safety, but I don't know. We haven't figured out how woke he is yet.
If you had a moment with the president right now, tonight, what would you say to him?
You know, I would say we are patriotic Americans. We have done everything we have done has been for the sake of this country, for the sake of supporting U.S. national security. Our leaning forward in deploying our models with the military was done because we believe in this country. We believe in defeating our autocratic adversaries. We believe in defending America. The red lines we have drawn, we drew because we believe that crossing those red lines is contrary to American values. And we wanted to stand up for American values. And when we were threatened with supply chain designation and Defense Production Act, which are unprecedented intrusions into the private economy by the government, We exercised our classic First Amendment rights to speak up and disagree with the government. Disagreeing with the government is the most American thing in the world. And we are patriots. In everything we have done here, we have stood up for the values of this country.
Okay, I think something that we need to mention regarding AI and weaponry is this is a Western problem. He had said it like America. This is only happening in the West. So China and Russia are building their AI systems and they don't have any pushback. The state is everything that exists there. So Chinese people are building AI for the state, but the state is building it. There is no private sector where we are private citizens with rights that our being puts forth a government. The government works for us. So I like that he's pushing back. I like that we have this Western privilege of we're making a commercial product. The government is going to use it. And now we have to decide how it's going to fit together. And I have to say, as a libertarian and someone that typically sides with the conservative mindset, it isn't right that Trump is pushing so hard on the private sector. No. Actually, he could push back on the private sector. But what's scary is that he's willing to punish them for their pushback in safety. Next, I want to bring us now into the beefin'. We be beefing. Okay, so let's go through kind of the timeline of all the players because the backstory is pretty interesting in regards to, because my question on all of this is why do they hate this guy so much? And then to get to that question of why do they hate the guy so much, you got to understand the backstory of AI. So we be beefing. I've got all the major players. Ironically, this picture is not accurate at all, and that made this even more ironic because I asked Grok to make me a picture with certain people like Larry Page for DeepSeek Google, and he gave me some random person. And Anthropic's logo is not perfect nor close, nor is that Dario on there, but I don't care because this is the best I could do with AI and where we're at in 2026. This is why movies are not made with AI yet because the accuracy and the consistency are basically not there yet, but we're close. In 2013, Elon has a birthday, okay? And he was friends with Larry Page at Google, which Google at the time was about 70 to 90% of our AI was being built by Google. And he said some mean things to Elon. Elon had something about AI and he expressed that humans have consciousness and that should be relished and preserved. And Larry Page looked at him and called him a speciesist. Well, that Elon swore off their friendship after that. In 2014, Google buys DeepMind and Elon panics. Panic. In 2015, Elon and Sam Altman meet up along with some other tech bros for dinners, like 10 rich tech bros. And they're like, we need to do something that is basically we want to build a company. We're going to make it the opposite of what Google AI's company is doing, because I really think that AI safety should be we're either going to kill ourselves or we're going to do it right? So they set out to make it different in two different ways. They're not going to be for profit, and it's going to be open to the world so everyone can benefit and see and watch how safe it is. And that is why OpenAI was born in 2015. Elon pledged $1 billion to help get it going, and they poached really big talent from Google as well. So they've had some brainiacs in the mix. From what I understand, it kind of ran out of an apartment. Sam Altman, Elon wasn't there. They were taking care of their companies, but it was a group of dudes that were the best in their business to start building OpenAI. Actually, I'm going to jump over to a clip right now. Speaking of 2015 Elon Musk, not saying he's any different from today, or maybe that's what we're here questioning, and just show you where he was at this point in time.
He was concerned about the lack of safety precautions around AI, which he felt posed an existential threat to humanity.
I don't think most people understand just how quickly machine intelligence is advancing. I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile.
At this point in 2015, Google was the undisputed leader.
Okay. So, I just love looking back at him, and I still do today, but we're at a different pace now with AI. Okay. So let's get back. We've just formed OpenAI. We've got some talent. It's 2018. Things are evolving slowly. Elon, being the visionary he is, he sets out and he says, and I'm oversimplifying what took a long time to happen. And Elon says it went down a little bit differently, but this is kind of what it was. Hey, yo, I want OpenAI to merge with Tesla and I want to be the CEO. And then time goes by, the board votes in Sam Altman. The rest is history. So now Elon leaves, and this is important. He takes most, if not all, of the money with him. Remember, he pledged $1 billion to be their investment source. Well, now that money is gone, which is very important. Why in 2019, OpenAI then turns into a for-profit company. And they did a deal with Microsoft, which means, woo, we're going to be in the money, we in the money. The way to think of it, when we're going to jump now to 2022, Sam Altman posted on X, hey, here's ChatGPT. This is the larger language model you're familiar with now. They didn't really know how big it was going to be. I think they took like a vote in the office. How many people do you think is going to use it? And the highest vote, I believe they bet would be 100,000 people might use it. This tweet right here, Sam Altman, November 2022. Today, we launched ChatGPT. Try talking with it here. And he posts the link. It's very simple. It's very low key. So after they posted it, they hit 100 million users in the first, I think it was week. And to put that into context, Facebook took 4 months to hit that many users. Now, we're in 2021. Dario Modi, the CEO of Anthropic, he and some key safety people. So you've got your computer nerds and your safety nerds. They both work together at these AI companies. They were like, this is not looking good at OpenAI. And so about 8 to 10 key employees left AI to form Anthropic. So the very reason that Elon left his friendship with Larry Page and Google is the same reason that Dario Modi is leaving OpenAI and Sam Altman in the dust to make a, you could say, more secure, better AI. In 2023, Elon launches XAI to compete with both of these companies. Okay, so now they're both his arch nemesis for oversimplification. He sues OpenAI for $134 billion and says it shouldn't be called OpenAI. It should be called closed AI, because we all know that once you turn for profit, this is no longer open sourced. You're making money on it and it's proprietary. Part of his lawsuit is basically saying, when I was partnering this up with you, it was for a nonprofit, but now that you're going to be profiting, I'm owed some of that money. They later hit back and said, in short, we found some correspondence that indicates that you were open to turning this into a for-profit company when discussed. Then he later fires back, and that puts us into today, where they're going to litigation over $134 billion. That's a lot of cheese. That's like 3 or 4 times what he paid for Twitter. They're going to court in April. So we can watch this kind of hash out. Now you'll know what's up to date when you see this in the news coming up in 1 month from now. Okay, so now we're here in July 25. I've already told you in July, we have set forth these 4 companies to run our AI systems. We're now back to where we are today, where Anthropic is getting blacklisted. XAI signs this deal, eyes closed, doesn't have any guardrails, just follow the law, boys. OpenAI rushes in to take up the slack that Anthropic drops. The irony is that Elon, who started the AI safety movement, now owns the company with the least amount of safety in place. Maybe I'm not trying to oversimplify things just for the sake of making a show and a thesis. And this is what I meant by when you're dating someone and you can't really see them for who they are, or when you're so deep into a project, you can't really see its creativeness or what's too much and what's too little and how many more polishes does it need. You can't see the forest for the trees. I'm a massive Elon fan. I'd like to think that same concerned guy in 2015 is the same guy today. But man, there's been so much happening. Y'all remember the Trump and Elon bromance, and maybe I like to see that there's a willingness to please in him since they had the fallout and he made those stupid comments about him, And when I mean willing to please, meaning willing to go along with the Pentagon without saying, hey, well, hold on, let's think about this first. Like, should I allow you guys to do all of this without any of our companies say so? Any of our private companies allowance to do this. I mean, imagine, guys, think of the Slaughterbots, right? Once they're loose, you've got these little tiny bees that can just mass kill anybody. What if they get hacked? Anyways, the what ifs is not for this episode. All right, so I mean, the point is that is this $1 billion club? Like, I guess I should put, so before Trump came out with these tweets about this wokeism, which now we're going to get to the bottom of, he basically sounded like he was repeating Elon Musk's tweets by calling them left-wing nut jobs. Elon has not obviously held back in his feelings of how he feels about these companies. And then it kind of seems like Trump just so quickly turned on them with, I thought, was reasonable pushback. So now we're going to, let me get you on here. Let's play with Grok. And then we're going to play with some other of these companies to make sure we're not getting a biased opinion. All right, it says, what makes a company woke regarding a woke AI company, say like Anthropic? This is going to be interesting because, like, when I first started working on this episode, making it with Claude's like, well, hold on. I got a full disclosure here, let you know this is me. I'm making of course, I'm going to be biased in your analysis of this. TLTR. In short, Anthropic gets called woke primarily in right-leaning circles due to its AI safety ethics stance clashing with certain government military demands plus perceptions of model bias. However, it's not a classic woke corporation in vein of heavy public DEI campaigning or progressive activism like some consumer brands. It's more about safety guardrails and neutrality debates in AI. The label often depends on who's applying it and what context. Well, thank you. So there we are from the enemy itself, Grok, the enemy of Anthropic, I joke, owned by Elon, and talking about, this is it. This is the answer that the guy that posted that Trump, we don't need no left wing running our AI. Yeah, this is coming from the other side of the aisle, so I don't have to go back to the other people and ask them what they would say. This is already saying it, is that he's not woke in regards to transing your children secretly via their AI weapon system, which I don't even see how is possible. They're woke simply by putting in safety guardrails. Now, do I want them to be able to fire a missile back? Absolutely. But when it comes to these autonomous, having some we could all just say right now, having some humans in the loop has worked for us just fine. In fact, our nuclear system, the football, all of that is very archaic. I would feel probably better if we don't move AI into the loop of how our nukes work in the world. All right, let's see. What else do we got here today? Oh, gosh, we got to close it with our hero, Edward Snowden. How could I forget? We got me some Snowden. Okay, guys, it's important to note, Edward Snowden, in case you haven't know who he is, go watch his movie. It's called Snowden. After 9/11, the George Bush administration put up the Patriot Act to keep us safe against terrorism, right? So that enabled our government to do all kinds of digging into our lives. But then he blew the whistle and told us they're not just doing this for terrorism. They're like looking in on everyday people. He figured all this out because he was a contractor for the NSA, and he was working there from 2009 to 2013. He was going to Hong Kong to tell a journalist his story, and he did, as you see in the movie. And his passport on the way home, while he was laid over in Moscow, Russia, was canceled because the United States he was charged with espionage. Okay, and still till this day, guys, he has never left country of Russia, all because he blew the whistle. He cared more about upholding our Constitution and being a patriot, and still till this day, not even President Trump has chose to pardon him. Many of our prior presidents, if not all of them, have tried to get him back to American soil to forever jail him. There's even people in our military in office today that'll call him a traitor. Let's go over what he exposed to us, guys. The big programs he exposed: PRISM. NSA had a direct access to the servers of Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Yahoo, and Skype. This is really dating us with Yahoo and all those. They could read your emails, see your photos, and watch your video chats. Bulk phone metadata collection. Verizon and other carriers were forced by secret court orders to hand over your phone records. Any call you made by the millions. Who you called, when you called, and for how long. X key score, described as NSA's Google. There was an analyst could search through the virtually anyone's internet activity, emails, browsing history, chats without a warrant. The NSA's stated internal goal was literally collect it all, process it all, exploit it all, know it all. Now, where that lands us today is that the courts later came back and said, okay, yeah, we were wrong. We were doing that all because we said it's legal, but turns out some of it wasn't legal, specifically dealing with the phone records. So our government was actually having to admit that it broke some rules. But the point of how that is the parallel of exactly what's going on today with AI is they're saying, yeah, just stay within the law. But clearly, past precedents shows they don't stay within the law. They even said it was for terrorism, but really they did it with everyday people. And now, let's see, we're doing it for our safety. Ironically, still they would even say for terrorism. But oh my goodness, it's so much more. And so how does that look now? Because remember, we had dated crap like Yahoo on there. How does this look now in 2026? What does Palantir have on you, or are they making, and are they doing it? And yes, unfortunately, when Donald Trump came into office in 2025, one of those beautiful executive orders he signed on the second day of his presidency had something to do with mass data collection. And I'm going to do my best to get it out here for you. Trump signed an executive order instructing government agencies to share data with each other and enlisted Palantir to carry it out. While we're here, let's just go back to Watergate with Nixon. What they found and ruled after that, what they did illegal in Watergate was they used the IRS records to then talk crap about political enemies. And that's when they said, and they made a rule, so we know this is already law, you can't cross databases system in the government because you could use it in instances like this, right? Well, now fast forward to this being signed, Palantir in play, the database would combine tax filings, student debt, social security, bank accounts, medical claims, and immigration status. No previous system has ever centralized this much personal info across federal agencies. How did it begin? It started, unfortunately, with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, my favorite thing that we have ever done yet, this fourth. And the sad news is, guys, is DOGE is no longer around. What I mean by that is there's no one employed in that branch that's actually working on government efficiency, ironically. So what is it directly ahead right now? Let me just break this down on how the database will look in the future. You're going to start hearing these direct words, digital grid, but I'm talking internationally, and it's implemented in 3 ways. And this is going to happen, unfortunately, again, in all the countries. You could argue the United States. No, we wouldn't do that. No. What do you think Palantir is doing? So these things directly are all 3 things that Palantir is setting up for our digital grid throughout the globe. One is you're going to be your digital ID. How we're going to do that in the United States, even though I myself didn't believe it until I saw it broken down to me piece by piece, is we already have to have our facial scans for our banks or the fingerprint. That will be implemented across all things that we're already using. It'll pretty much be impossible to survive without having this scanning going on. And it's kind of, you could see how it makes sense, because with scammers and AI, it's kind of like, well, yeah, you do need that. Like, I'm telling you, have y'all noticed how much worse the scamming has gotten? Like, more intricate, better links from inside the companies, etc. Okay, the second part is the currency. So the digital currency. We're going to start creating money that, let's say they put it into your name, and they can put an expiration date on that money. They can even say where and how you spend that money. So they're controlling where your actual assets will be going, and your assets could be taken away depending upon who you believe. That's what I'm saying. Like, who's going to be in power in the future? Because you may be on the wrong side of history, and poof. So many people have already been debanked and deplatformed. This is 100% already happening. And then the third thing is think physical hardware. Think cameras. Think 15-minute cities. You've heard it, but it's not coming here to America. Oh yeah, 88 cities are already signed up, 2 which are in Texas. 1 is already implemented in the UK as we speak right now. Oxford in England has been divided into 6 different sections. They're fixing to roll it out like they've already done it, and now they're implementing it. 6 different sections. I think you get 100-day passes where you could leave your little 15-minute 1/6 section of the city and travel on either outside the city completely or to the other side of town. Dystopic. And it's funny because they don't even have to say it's for green purposes. They could just say because we want to, because like I told you, we're sheeple just marching straight into this. No one is protesting. We're busy protesting on the right, silly things that are like cyclical coming in and out, like Israel and Iran. On the left, they're busy protesting 80-20 issues, meaning they're protesting for things that only 20% of the population even agrees upon. And usually that 20% is for the rights of people that are typically like 1%. Okay, so let me park this puppy and bring you all the way home, and I will bring you home. The person who's the president or the powers that be across the world, we may or may not like them. That is completely out of our control. We're putting 0 guardrails up for AI safety. We're walking all over the 4th Amendment. Who cares about what happened in Watergate? So where does this land us metaphysically? I promised you I would bring it to you metaphysically, and I'm going to give it to you easy to understand. For me, at least, because I've been working on this for about a year and a half, is a 3-part documentary series I've been working on to release on television. It's called Spirit of the Bomb, and I'm making a case for creation and annihilation through energy. So it's been quite an interesting walk, but I can't help but think of the thesis of my 3-part documentary is basically what I've been describing to you, and I'm going to read it to you. Here you go. If for those that can't see the screen. Our technological evolution has outpaced our emotional and spiritual evolution. We are in a dangerous phase, medieval minds armed with modern capacities, a perfect recipe for extinction. Oh, man. So let that kind of sink in. That's what I've been describing to you. Our technological stuff has outpaced where we are in the human consciousness. And the easiest way to describe it is there's always 2 central things that everything operates on: fear and love. 2 basic human emotions, but you could boil down all your emotions go into one of those camps. It even operates that like on a metaphysical level. All the little subatomic particles are operating off of an expansion or contraction, a 0 or a 1, a fear or a love. Everything is listening. All of things are being programmed and put into the probabilistic virtual reality that we're living in as what are you looking for? What is this why people say, what is your vibe? What is the vibration you're putting out of? Fear or love? Scarcity or abundance? And I think it's easy to understand. This is the first time in history, if you look at it from an anthropological lens, that we as human beings are living without one fundamental truth that humans have always lived with throughout all of the study of mankind. What do you think that is? So we're in postmodernity. I can't say the word postmodernity right now. We removed spirit from science. We removed spirit from our everyday lives in the 1900s. We thought we were too good for it. Basically, spirit can't really be real, right? We're too good for it. We don't, that's what for the medieval ages when they did like weird alchemy and stuff, they didn't have it right. We know, our physicists know, like we know way better. And we removed the fundamental truth of how all of this comes together and wonder why nothing is physically working out and how things don't make sense. There are a couple people who do know, though, the fundamental truths. Obviously, monks, nuns, saints around the world, yogis, spiritual people. Well, it depends on, everybody's different. Everybody's got their own spiritual path. But oddly enough, it's also the people who run the world. It's not the right or the left, but it's the cabal. It's the weird satanic worshiping people that for whatever reason, they're the puppet masters of our whole world saying, aha, let's bring in the third world invasion and take all culture away. And those people. That's the oddest, most ironic thing, though, is that they understand this energetic truth that no one's addressing. And there's so much more to energy. We'll get to it in other episodes regarding weapons and what is and isn't even recognized as real by our society and government regarding energy. But they understand it, ironically use it in a weird way, a demonic way, but they know the secrets of the universe that we as monkeys operating in this five-sensed physical world, fear-based, opposite and disconnected from what human beings really are. I mean, if we looked hard enough, it's never put in front of you regarding our media, but we've got studies where you could blindfold children. They could see, read. You could go pick out things at a grocery store. You could read without sight. Your consciousness exists outside your five senses. The five senses is actually the joke making you believe that this physical environment is real. And there are times in human evolution that we have been smarter, on a higher level of consciousness. And I know you've heard this, these utopias. That's probably how we sang the rocks into existence in Egypt. I believe everything is regarding cycles, whether it's cycles here on earth, cycles in heaven, cycles in nature. Everything goes from in and out of cycles. And our mass consciousness of stupidity to pure brilliance and self-realization also goes in these swings through thousands of years. And right now we're definitely more so in the matter-based one. This very idea that you probably think I'm crazy is supporting what I'm saying. There's a study in quantum physics called the double slit experiment, and people look at it in many different ways. The most popular interpretation is the Copenhagen interpretation. There's also the pilot wave theory. However, I had an interesting thought when I was listening to Thomas Campbell, a famous physicist, explain it in his eyes and how it's probabilistic. And I was really able to put it together, exactly what he was saying, that what the mass consciousness, we know our thoughts create things. We're all connected in the fundamental field. And what the mass consciousness creates, it's more probability for that to become reality. What I'm pointing to is if we all wanted to fly and humans could fly and we all believed we could fly, we would be flying. So we're at a lower state of fear-based matter world. We're not these evolved beings. Jesus was self-realized. And I have an unpopular belief amongst Christians is that Jesus wanted you to be self-realized. He taught his closest followers about this self-realization of knowing that human beings are powerful, energetic beings, that miracles can be understood. All of what he did could be understood, and it is for us. The kingdom of heaven lives within you. However, in modern day Christianity, and I say that way because throughout time and around the world, we have looked at Christianity quite differently. And it's hard for Christians to, the more normal way for us to think of him is, which I love this part, pure reverence and devotion and awe. I love that. But when we look to ourselves, we have a unworthy feeling that is put upon us from our postmodern society as Westerners. And once you really start evaluating that is probably the most fundamental thing that changed my entire life is once I had someone help me see that this unworthiness that was given to me based on where my beliefs and where I was born in this belief system, that changes everything. But we can't go down that rabbit hole right now. Jesus knew that every single human being, if they sat still, we all see the same dang thing. It's the Christ consciousness center, the spiritual eye. I have a whole video made on it. Please go enjoy it. It's on YouTube. That's the Holy Trinity. Those three things you see in the spiritual eye. It's nothing spooky. I love for you to enjoy that. But it's hard for us to get there, to be self-realized, because we're living in a world where everything is programmed against you to understand what you are. Your food, everything we listen to, our attention span. And even in meditation, it's not going to work without the fuel that fuels the fire, which is already what I mentioned previously, that devotion, that reverence, that love, that one thing that the whole world is operating off of the two human emotions. It's that further spectrum, that raw reverence, the not that you're not worthy, but you are in awe. So the problem also, I think, that's holding a lot of us back in the West and Christians, etc., is that we like to personify our God. We see him. We are made in his image. He sent us Jesus, his son, so we could completely understand it. We have the Holy Trinity. Thank you. That is all real. However, when it comes to understanding the hardest part, which is how this all works, how did it come about, we have to step away from that theological stories of human beings and more so into words that Christians get uncomfortable with: philosophy, logic, physics, terms that they don't like, terms that kind of put us off, in order to explain it. And it is a ton of zeros and ones, logic. We are living in a virtual simulation through the larger consciousness system that is God. The apparatus is the fundamental field that permeates all without. Nick Bostrom, I think is his name, has a beautiful simulation theory I'll do in another video that I absolutely believe in. But I also believe that instead of ancestors watching the simulation, it is the larger consciousness system, God himself, watching the simulation. And this all only happens in his simulation. This dream world is only being dreamed by him and held together by him. So the point of all of this is that you do have your theology. You do know that there is this personalized God created for us to understand how it works through him, personifying as human beings. But it's all, both are true. The virtual simulation that he rendered for us to be in is also true. And as believers, we know this is just temporary. This matter-based world also dreamed into existence through just basically light and love. And I don't say that sounds so hippy-dippy. I'm not one of those people, but at this time, I'm actually literally meaning it. This dream world is here. It ain't our home. So it's not our home. Heaven is our home. So we're going back to part of our virtual simulation inside of God's consciousness is the wonderful astral heavens. And that is our home. So who cares? We signed up to come here to Earth for soul's growth, to play. And part of the war, part of the AI mass surveillance is God's drama playing out. God was bored. Because if you go back again, sorry, but I'm close with this. That's why I'm saying, if you look at philosophy, we have to get away from the theology and go to more of the larger, hardest, bigger questions that are asked in philosophy. If we had a perfect God, why did he create the world? So the only answer to that, without stepping into a box that would be inconsistent to logic, is that he was perfect. He made this for fun, to play. So as horrible as it sounds, and this is why it only works for believers, doesn't work for non-believers, suffering can exist on this planet because it's not real anyways. Heaven and home, being one with God, part of the love vibration, part of the fundamental field, the larger consciousness system, which if you go, my prior episodes, I've taught you, your soul, your awareness, your existence is all one same thing. Those are the three words I use to describe your consciousness. It cannot be separated from the fundamental field. There is no separation of you and God. So even when the lights go out on this physical earth suit and you're beamed back into heaven, you're still the same you with the same ness, just feeling a whole lot better. So that's why there's no getting it wrong. That's why it's okay we're in a simulation. That's why it's okay we're going into a mass surveillance. And that's why it is okay for suffering to happen here, because it is all just relative and temporary, and it ain't real, because nothing here, at least in the matter world, is real. It's kind of funny. Things that are more ethereal based in heaven are more likely real. All right, guys, enjoy the ride. Enjoy the simulation. Bye-bye.
Quantum bombs.